Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Captain's Academy. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Phoenix Starworks Stellar Mantis. Stellar Mantis is a Core 4 SV Interceptor, spawning in with a few weapons, 2 lasers, 1 minigun, and 2 railguns. It does, however, feature a number of pylons and other placements for additional mounts. And also the internal compartment can be utilized to upgrade the machine. We're talking about additional CPU, shield parts, an optional jump drive if you want to do that, and we can also expand our primary cargo. So taking a look here, another thing I want to point out is it does have some utility right out of the gate. We're looking at a utility station over here. Coming in with a constructor, it does have options to add a additional constructor. We'll go over that here in a minute. As well as the utility station on the opposite side, we're looking at a armor locker, O2 station, fridge, as well as a number of other devices that can be slotted in there. So first thing I think we want to take a look at here is our CPU. Being a Core 4, designed to be optimal for Reforged 1, Reforged 2, as well as vanilla. So, given it's Reforged 2, we do have the option to slot in an additional basic CPU. Now here, this will entirely be dependent on what scenario you're playing, how you're going to configure this. So, if you are Reforged 2, you can just install as you will. So let's see here, maybe we want to rotate this. It's going to be our superior there. Now, yep, okay, superior. So then we also can slot in our quantums if you want to do that. So here, this is kind of like a recommended placement for the jump drive. However, that's entirely up to you how you want to configure that. There's a number of ways you want to do it. I guess by this point, if you are vanilla, you just need to go ahead and replace your current CPU configuration with your 4, and then you're done. Now, however, with the other 2 scenarios, it's just going to be a little bit of jostling back and forth about your placement here. So yeah, so this could be your jump drive. Now, it's entirely optional. If you want to jump out of system, that's fine. Now, if it's something that you're short range, you're maybe working off a CV, you could utilize the space for even more, say, like shield parts or something to that effect. So let's go ahead and look at our jump drive placement there, see how this factors in. Yeah, so that's that. We still have quite a bit of room here for a number of devices. Again, could be like a shield extenders placed down here in the bottom and stuff like that. What's going on with the guy? Yeah, I have no idea. Alright, so you could continue to fill out your CPU there at the bottom if you want to do that. Also, again, not spawning in with a shield generator, so that's something you need to consider with your configuration. So that could be that there, and then let's say we want to just go ahead and finish out a number of additional CPUs here. So that would be that. I'm not sure about the auxiliary core. That's entirely up to you. I just find that the space is not entirely that efficient for the CPU output. Now, with shield parts, that's going to be... Yeah, I'm not sure if you could fit all of them here. I guess perhaps if you take out the jump drive, you should be able to fit, I would say, if you're looking optimal, I would suggest just going with the larges, and then whatever CPU you have left over, you could go ahead and invest in additional shield parts if you want to do that, if you're not worried about maxing out the weapon load. Alright, so we still have a little bit of space left there with this current configuration, and also some space here. Maybe you could slot in a shield part in there somewhere with that configuration. Keep in mind as you're doing this, actually, we have 2 entrances here. So this one right there about the mid-rear section, and of course this here. You'll be able to access the compartment through here with the drone, but beyond that, the drone apparently is a thick body, so you can't get out of this thing or in it with the drone with this little one width block. So you're gonna have to personally jump in and out. If you start from this side, maybe you want to fill up from this side first. It's gonna be kind of tricky how you work that. Now, yeah, that considered, so what we have left here, we got a little bit of space and perhaps you're happy with your device placement, so what you could do is expand your ammunition container here. Yeah, and just keep going, fill out what nooks and crannies you have here, and now for vanilla you could certainly expand this quite a ways more than this, because by this point you're going to have your device loadout done with just the shield jump drive and what have you. So the 6K, that's kind of conservative. We do have other cargo systems here, but and that's going to be entirely on you how you want to configure that. Maybe you don't have this jump drive again. You know, maybe it's just short range and you're not worried about it. Right. Yeah, we did need that fusion generator, I guess. That's a thing. Fortunately, you should only need one, and this form is pretty compact, so. Operates as the shield charger as well. The shield recharge value, so maybe that could factor into how you do your shield loadout. Alright, so let's look at some of our other options here, our utility options. Before we start on our thrusters. So first thing is, again, we have the Constructor on this side, but if you want to double up, you can remove these 3 blocks. They give you double Constructors if you want to do that. Or maybe it's maybe you want to put something else in there. So entirely up to you. Just these 3 blocks there, so, and that would fulfill that. Alright, opposite side, if we wanted to, we could double up on our fridges, and we'll just go ahead and remove this block here. So something like that. Maybe we want to rotate it. Kind of maybe block up that back section there, or something like that. That's not too bad. Okay. So, next thing is the trauma station. I want to show you here, we have a layout determined, and we just want to move this thin block, double click a mouse, and that triangle piece there, and then, so we have a nice little convenient trauma station right there with our other utility devices, so you can tap and go on that. It's nice tucked away, it's not protruding, it doesn't disrupt the form too much. So the clone chamber is an entirely different beast altogether. But yeah, this should be our configuration here for that, so. Alright, clone chamber. Yeah, so that's kind of tricky. What can we do with this? Maybe we want to spawn in upside down or something? You know, that's just get it out of the way. That's kind of, yeah, I don't know about that. So maybe if we wanted to, we could cannibalize one of these placements. It's kind of tough with this clone chamber, just the size and shape of it to absorb into some of these builds, but yeah, I guess we have a number of options that aren't too disruptive. Maybe, you know, again, maybe that's not too bad of a placement. If you just want something out of the way, you want that function. Because otherwise, if you want to cannibalize this area here, I guess you could do that, but that's going to be cutting into your weapon loadout. Maybe you're fine with that. Right. So, next thing is our thrusters. We got a number of medium jet placements. So spawning in it is kind of sluggish. Keeping that in mind, but once we... So for Reforged 2, once we get everything slotted in, then it does become quite robust. Now, we do have these options here if we want to, if we're not satisfied with the thrust out of this. So there's a number of options you can do here for your Reforged Eden 2 players. Obviously, you could upgrade the central thrust there. That's one route to do that, but if you're not worried about that, or maybe you don't have the materials for that just yet, so you could go this route first. Just take these guys out. So it should be one of the more super obvious placements for thrusters here. Right? That'd be 3 there for forward. And again, you know, it's kind of designed around segueing into the upgraded thruster, so maybe you don't have the materials here for RE2, the plasma parts, or maybe for antimatter you don't have that yet, so you could just go in soft with just like regular ion until you get to that point. So that's your forward thrust, and let's go ahead and look at reverse. Again, we have these assisters here. This will help with your yaw, so maybe you don't want to slouch on upgrading these because that'll help out with your turning left and right performance. But your primary thrust should be coming out of these systems right here, so we want to go in here. We're going to leave that thin block. Adds a nice little aesthetic to the build, and we just keep pushing here. Right, so don't want to go past the X's there. And there's that. Alright, so there's our reverse thrusts. If you want to make this thing to form, give it something that kind of blends in, doesn't draw attention, or maybe you're fine with the thruster look there and just want to color it some way. So that's our reverse fulfilled. Now we do have a couple options here for some single lines if we want to do that, like a 3x1, larges for example, or maybe mediums. Could be a 2x1 if you want to go that route. So starting at the little symbol there, the line, and we just push back till we get to our X and don't push past that. And that'll give you some additional reverse thrust if you're not satisfied with this here. Now that could come into play, so for example with Reforged Eden 1 where we don't have the option of upgrading the thrust, all this additional thrust could come in handy. For vanilla you should be okay with this plasma jets, right? I'm sorry, the regular jets. That's plasma, but it should just be like a jet thruster for vanilla. And that should be sufficient between these right here. I think that should be sufficient, but again, if you get the CPU, you want to upgrade it, that's just going to add to the performance of the build. Alright, so that's our reversed, and also let's go ahead and look at strafe. So we kind of have an easy tell here with this strafe thruster. Now, these other two are more, so these placements here, these are more towards the center of the body, so if you're RE2 players and you have the option to either upgrade or place additional thrusters, I would suggest upgrade because this one's going more towards the rear and that's going to contribute a little bit more to yaw. But maybe you're not at that point, or maybe you're a Reforged Eden 1 player and yeah, so you just want the most value, and here we go. So that'll be it for our strafe thrust. Should be sufficient for RE1, and vanilla, that's probably overkill at this point. Now we do have these assisters right here. These could be upgraded for RE2. Just keep in mind that could turn into ion, and that would tremendously help out. I'm sorry, to antimatter, and that would tremendously help out your yaw value in addition to strafe thrust. Okay, so that's strafe, and so now let's look at our dorsal thrust and also our lift. So we got these here. Again, you know, same program for RE2. You could upgrade or you could add additional. So what we're going to be looking for here is this cutout. It should be super obvious. And again, like anything else, we want to remove the blocks until we get to our X. And then once we get to the X, we don't go past that. All right. Okay, so that's our lift. Now, down thrust. Couple options. We have these here. Go ahead and upgrade those. Or we also have this additional pocket here hiding out, so should be an easy tell for the down thrust here if we're not going to go with just like some additional larges. So you got a couple options. You know, you could remove these here, and that'll give you placement for additional 3x1s facing up. So maybe you want to go plasmas like that for RE2. Right? Maybe that's sufficient. And perhaps you just upgrade those, and that might be good for you there. Now, however, if you're vanilla and RE1, our option here is we're just going to punch through the floor. Right? And now go ahead and flip these over and just push all the way up. So there's a little bit of downhang there. I guess that's all right. Not really too much you can do with that. These thrusters, they are what they are. So it looks okay with the landing gear extended there. It doesn't. It's not too obvious. So we have that there, right? That's fine. I guess you could, if you wanted to. Maybe you don't like that little bit hanging down there at the bottom, so you just go ahead and get this thing out of there and push all the way up. So, and then that's flush like that. So that's not too bad, right? That's not too bad. It's pretty clean. Yeah. So that's it for all of our thrusters. Now again, you know, keep in mind these here. For RE2, you want to upgrade these. That's going to be good for your yaw. Okay, yeah, that's it. So last thing is our weapons. Number of options. Maybe not too heavy on the turret placement, but yeah, pretty good on the amount of weapons. So looking at RE2, I guess we could go for an example for the 3x1s. So we have the railguns here, and that's an easy replacement. Whatever you want to do, you could go like plasma or some other heavy laser or something like that, for example. So that could be a thing there. If you're in a pinch for CPU, probably want to remove these laser cannons and just put in some default block holder. So let's say we go with some plastic. We want to ship these away. And also for RE2, maybe not so much vanilla and Reforged 1. That's with the shield penetration. That could be a thing there. These are definitely going to be targets. I would certainly recommend leaving something there. So maybe the minigun is fine as it is, and that could draw fire. It's encased in hardened steel around that, so that should sustain for a little while. Now here, maybe you want to just go ahead and replace this with some sort of block work. Let's say we do this block here, right, and then could just do some of the cylinders, cylinder thin. Yeah, something like that, you know, a little placeholder. Perhaps it's hardened steel in order to soak up some more damage. Number of options there. You could just do an antenna or something as a placeholder. This is just considering if you're playing RE2 and you're concerned about this. Now, it should be okay if you're on top of it, like if you hit and fade with the build. You don't let your shield go down and you're popping in and out of the cockpit, you're topping off with the repair tool. That should be alright. If you're into managing that, that's not going to be an issue. Now, if it's something that you want out of sight, out of mind, then yeah, go ahead and put a placeholder there. But again, that's not going to be so much an issue for, say, vanilla and Reforged players. So if we wanted to, we could just also weaponize that. Or it could be like some drills, right? Maybe just some supplemental stuff. So yeah, it could go like that. Same thing. This little section here. Maybe you don't want a minigun. Maybe you want something else. So entirely up to you. Right. So we have our big boy mount right there, and then also we have a line here. So you could go for another weapon there, or you could do like a bomb. That's an option. Also, if we want to get rid of that, it could be the start of our turret layout. So what we'd want to do if we wanted to do a turret placement here is we want to go ahead and get rid of these thin blocks, which... Right, so since the collision mesh of those spill over, we want to get rid of the blocks first. So these thin blocks here, let's go ahead and get rid of these. Okay. Put our whatever weapon of choice we want back in there, and now what we can do is have a turret mount there like that, and internal tuck. So that'll be 2 there. Yeah, so 2 turrets there. Let's we'll come back to that. Let's go ahead and finish our weapons first. Right. So this is kind of designed around this mount right here. Looks pretty cool as a placement. Oh yeah. But entirely up to you. Yeah, something like that. Now, and then this will also leave a placement right here at the top, so that could be a number of other weapons. So what you also could do is, this is a weapon line right here. So you want to look for this, and for a X by 1, it could be 3 by 1, 5 by 1, 8 by 1, whatever the weapon length is, but could do something like that. That's an internal placement, and maybe you want to put something below that too. So yeah, good number of weapon mounts here. So yeah, a lot of ordnance. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. Now you could do the same thing like what we just did with turrets there for this side. Remove the send block, and you could drop another one down if you want to do that. Yeah, that's kind of it for amount of weapons. Now, if we wanted to, you could cannibalize one of these placements, or maybe even both of them, and place some additional amount of weapons there. You also have that one there. It's kind of a tricky spot. So right below the thruster, you want to do that. It's quite a bit. Yeah, okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our turrets. And so since we're here, go ahead and pop this thing back off. So thin blocks on this inside tuck, and then that's going to give you your... That'll give you that turret placement there. It's got a little bit of protection from outside shots. Alright, so that's one, and also we have the optional placement here, so we could go like that, for example, or maybe push that up one, actually. So put that something like that. Now, so if we're utilizing this pylon, we have something hanging below that. We could mount a turret in front of it. So that's kind of conflicting with one of these weapon lines. So let's say we take care of that, and... Right. So that could be a mount there, or maybe you don't want this heavy and you just want to do a couple more turrets. Something like that. So that's what, 6, 7... And if we wanted to, right, we got this placement here. That's kind of capped out there, so maybe that would be a light weapon. So we're already capped out on our mediums or RE2, but yeah, we could do these here, and if we wanted to, we could clear up some of the thin block pieces right here so we're not obstructing any line of sight. And just kind of move that guy up like there, just like that, right? Alright, so there's that, and let's go ahead and take a look at our radar at this point. So we have our placement here at the top, and now I have the detector here. So for RE2 players, you're going to have to take this thing out. You get rid of that, and then you could put a placement there like this. Yep, something like that. Have it blend in, so that's an option. Yep. Okay. Actually, let's go ahead and look at it. We did have another turret placement here. Oops. That's also a medium. I'm sorry, I completely forgot about this. So you could go underneath the chin like that. So pretty good looking placement there too. So there's that. If we wanted some additional placements here for some targets below the build, that's also a placement. Right? And it's kind of hard to see with the darker texture, but yeah, that's it right there. You don't want to remove any of these thin blocks. That's gonna bleed into the compartment if you do that. So, right, so that's what we're looking at there. Yeah. Now, if we wanted to, also, I guess we could just do like, so we got these placements here. Could hang off the edge there a little bit, and that'll give you some protection against like drones behind you or something. If you're worried about that. All right, it's going somewhere. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, I guess if you wanted to, you could put another one on the top here. That would be fine. It's just probably going to obstruct this line of sight, but if you're kind of angled a little bit, that could contribute to the fight. Yep. Right. So I think that's yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Phoenix Starworks, Stellar Mantis, Interceptor. I went to a workshop near you. There are a number of color configurations, and I'm going to leave instructions on the workshop post. So keep an eye out for that. It's a good number of colors, 7 or 8, I think they last checked. So, yep. All right, that's it, folks. Until next time, LyfeForce out. Hey, folks, if you enjoy my content, please consider becoming a patron today. As a patron, you gain access to exclusive builds not featured on the workshop, early access builds, as well as participate in a number of things, including polls, feedback, comments, suggestions, ideas, or anything you'd like to submit to current and future builds. If any of this appeals to you, please consider becoming a patron today. Link in the pinned comment below. Thank you.